Doing fine, Helen. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
Good, great, great. Is that far out down at the warehouse and everything? All everything's under control down there?
As much as it can be, they're still monitoring it. I think they're not quite out of the clear in terms of allowing those folks back into that area. Update you all from our office. We are currently putting together the contract for the next recycling contract for the city. So that will start April 1st of this year. And what the decision made has been to go with Waste Management again. And so we are, though, looking at, after 1 year of having them collect the recycling, try our best to bring it in-house. So the city crews would actually then be collecting it and it would line up a lot better, we hope, with our sanitation crews and their collections. It would really help kind of unify a lot of the messaging, especially around, inclement weather events like we've had the past few weeks here. So we are looking to do that. We would still be processing with Waste Management. So we would still be using their facility to dump the material at, and they would still be responsible for sorting it, processing it, and marketing it for us. So really the only part that we would take in-house is just the picking up of that stuff. So that has that decision, the city council approved it last month. So we are moving forward with that, but wanted to let you guys know too, and feel free to ask any questions about that if you want before we move on. But yeah, that's where we are with that project.
So quick question, Helen. I know that I don't recall the exact numbers of contamination and all that stuff, but is there a very strong language in the recycling contract about all that? That if the contamination is beyond a certain limit, then it doesn't go to Waste Management, it goes to the landfill and...
Not in that sense. So
okay.
There is language though, and what Waste Management has actually done now is they have set a threshold percentage for us, where if we go over a certain percentage of contamination, the city is paying a fee for that now. So, it's really sort of encouraging us to do what we can. I will say sort of the catch-22 here, though, is, with their drivers still being responsible for the collection piece of it for the first year, we do rely a lot on those drivers to do, tag the carts if they see visible contamination in them and do what they can so they're not, bringing it in themselves. So we're going to try to work with them a little bit in that first year, but that's another piece that we're thinking will improve when we bring it in-house, because we will have a little bit more, control over that contamination, that piece of it in terms of enforcement. So, we don't really have as much enforcement capabilities right now, but we would hope that those percentages would decrease once we take over. But all contamination goes to the landfill. There's no other place to put it. So, we don't have to put like that kind of language in there, but it's more so, after so much of it comes in, we're going to start charging you guys for that is what we're looking at now.
Right, because I know your department's goal, you had some goals and targets to reduce contamination by X% or whatever. If we don't have it, then we should have it. But this would kind of give you a little bit more control when your people pick it up to, and I don't know, the sorting will still happen, I guess, at Waste Management, but you could kind of influence it a little bit, I don't know, before it goes to sorting. So,
yeah, exactly. That's the idea. So, we're really looking forward to sort of gaining that control. I will say, this will be an uphill battle for us to be ready to bring it in-house, because we have to acquire all the trucks, because we can't just take all of them from sanitation. Then they wouldn't be able to run their routes. And then we also have to get people hired in those positions. And so unfortunately, those are a couple of areas where there's some shortages. Like nationwide right now. So we're crossing our fingers that, we're starting early enough. Hopefully we'll be able to have it in place. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see that transition. And I'm sure it'll be a tough transition, but hopefully we'll get on track in a reasonable amount of time.
The interesting thing is, I look at how I use my trash and recycling. My trash container doesn't have to go out but every 2 weeks. Yeah, and especially in the wintertime, it could go every 3 weeks because it's not gonna smell bad or anything. But recycling, generally, there is peaks and valleys. Like Christmas time, there might be more, and then it's quiet. So it might be that we could look at maybe trash collection doesn't need to be every week, because we have big containers, and as people recycle more or use less, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that would work better in some neighborhoods than others. I mean, there's also still so many more people.
Multi-family neighborhoods will not work. Yeah.
Well, that, and then, not everybody has recycle bins or is even using them correctly. So, people are still, on different pages about how they dispose of their waste. So, I think absolutely in some neighborhoods, you're right. I mean, it could be swapped the way that we do it, but then when you get into like doing it in some areas and not others, that's even more confusing. It's a tough, but it's a tough situation, like a tough thing to try to figure out, because
And I spend a lot of time in Europe with my family, and they have evolved in a very different way. I mean, especially Switzerland, they tag every bag. You have to buy stickers for every bag. So the more you throw, the more you have to kind of pay. So it's pay as you go. And so people really sort everything in 8 different containers. They're motivated to financially to do that.
Yeah.
And it is, I remember going there, and my sister-in-law said, "Don't touch the trash, I will sort everything." I said, "I know how to sort it." It's like, "No, you don't." Like, wow. So it does change the way people do things once you start, having a different financial model.
Yeah, I think that also becomes an environmental justice issue, though, because it's, some of us can take that on and like do that, and fine, we don't, we can sort our trash, and other people they can't do that. It just, it wouldn't work that way.
And it could be targeted areas just as a trial to see how it works, and it can evolve slowly.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm gonna move on then to the next agenda item if we're good, and we can always come back to this if somebody thinks of something later on as well. Why don't we go ahead and start with Raj, what you were talking about, that information from Bill Blancato, and I believe I attached the template that he sent me as well as our council members to demonstrate really what he's asking of us. So he has sent a request that the city consider passing a resolution to support the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act. As Rajesh mentioned, a number of other cities, both in the state and across the country, have passed this resolution already. Some actually did it as part of a different resolution establishing goals, much like our resolution from November of 2020. Now, I think you all may even remember it was part of that at the time and was removed. But anyways, it's come back up again. So, this is an opportunity for us to consider, if the decision of you all as a committee is, this is something that you think the city should do, it would be a lot of the same process of putting together the wording for the resolution and then bringing it forward to city council with the recommendation of them signing on to it. There's not really a lot of action tied to this resolution. It's more just stating that the city would, I'm so sorry, hold on. Dog was chewing on a plastic bag. Okay. But yeah, so this resolution is more so just saying that the city of Winston-Salem supports Congress establishing a carbon dividend system, and is really nothing beyond just that. So, you know, up to you all. This will be on our agenda really until we get a quorum together to vote. So I'm just slowly but surely making sure different groups of you all get introduced to this idea and have some time to review it. So
how would we go forward with it? Would we take a vote eventually that we support this? Because I, for one, am completely 100% behind this thing.
Yeah.
It's a matter of time that this is going to happen anyway. And this is, again, it's not going to introduce any taxation or anything at our level, at the city level. We don't have anything except say, we support this at a national level if and when this were to happen. So.
Yeah, so, right, somebody would, at one of our meetings with quorum, just introduce a motion to pass, you know, creating the resolution. We could use his template, we could tweak it. I think that, you know, it's just the basic one. I don't know how many of them stayed exactly like this, but I mean, you know, it's maybe a little bit easier this time around since a lot of it is already sort of given to us in this format. But yeah, so you all would just pass a motion in one of the meetings. And then, you know, once it's ready, I would sort of take it and put it through the system to get it into one of the agendas for the General Government Committee again for City Council. And so it would go through the steps after that as well. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. If this is something that everybody is on board with. I think too, something of note and something that some of the city council members have picked up on is that it's really encouraging our state representatives to vote in support of it at the national level. So that's really the specifics. So you know, they can still choose to not and to ignore all the cities who have done this. That is still a very real possibility, especially in our state, unfortunately. But it you know, it's not, like Raj said, really committing the city to any local changes or commitments or anything.
Can we vote on that via email if we attach the language that we want to pass?
I think so. I know we voted on something via email in the past. And after this meeting, I think that will have been like 6 or 7, which is almost everyone that I will have at least been able to speak to about it. So yeah, but I mean, there's not like a real, I know that Bill, I'm sure, is eager to see this get passed, but it's one of our busier times of the year. So we're not, at the city council at least, I don't think is in any like rush to see this, but yeah, I can give you, send you the next couple of deadlines that we have for submitting things to those agendas, so you can see sort of what kind of timeline we might be looking at. So I can do that too in an email follow-up to make sure that, you know, if people are eager to go ahead and vote on this, that we can try to get it in the next few months on a city council agenda or something like that.
So there are 2 parts to this. I think one is to get a vote, and if somebody needs more information or questions, then either me or Bill or somebody else can answer those questions. And you know, if they're on the fence or not understanding what the issue is here, we can try to get the vote or go unanimous. So yeah, I mean, I'm with Leah that if we cannot get a quorum, or if we have 2 or 3 unfilled seats, then we should probably just do it by email and get it out of our hands and onto the city docket. However they want to do it, they can.
Okay, I'll make notes of these things so we can start putting that in motion. Yeah, so if there are no more questions about that piece of it, sounds like you all are pretty decided on it. We can move on then to the newest thing that has come across.
So it's my understanding that eventually we will vote on it. And then after we vote on it, we're just voting to say we support a similar resolution, and then we will sort of rewrite that resolution after we vote that we want to go in that direction, correct?
Yes, yeah. So that would be then, yeah, your chance to change the template or completely, yeah, put something together yourselves. Yeah, that would be what was done in between. Yeah. That's a good clarifying point. Thanks, Lee.
Yes, and Lee, if you want, we can, I mean, this is a national template that Climate Change Lobby has put together for the rest of the country as well. But most of our cities, I hear, they have followed the same template. Maybe a couple of cities may have tweaked a word or two, but again, it's just in support of something. So there are no percent figures or this or that, no numbers associated with it. So yeah. We can change it, but that could be the vote as well. We could have the vote in two. One is to support it and or to tweak the language or just use it as is.
Yeah, we would definitely clarify that in the vote too. Just again, I want to make sure that people do have time to look over what it does say and, you know, give them the chance to think about it to see if there is anything they want to change. But yeah, I would say the biggest changes that I've seen have just been, you know, when it's also a part of another resolution, it's generally shortened to fewer points. But yeah, that's the only major change that I think I've seen across some of these cities as well. All right, yes, so the link that I shared was sent to all of our city council members by a resident who just thought it was an interesting idea. One of our city council members sent it to us just to get some feedback on it and see where your heads are at in terms of this idea. It's a pretty big idea for out here. Yeah, it's yeah, I'll leave it at that and see if you guys have any.
So I don't know much about it. I haven't gone and researched it. What I understand is they take the plastic material, squish it together and make like bricks, plastic bricks that can be used in construction or something. That's what the main
and it's the plastic that isn't accepted in most programs. So this would be like the number 5s or those, you know, really complicated ones that we don't accept in our program. That's the idea, is we would then send that out to California or, you know, build a facility or rent a facility here to do it.
I mean, I think waste is like one of the least interesting and like least high priority sort of things we should be doing. I think greenhouse gas, carbon, like all of that, that's the top priority. Like plastic does need to be solved, but like the emissions need to be solved first. And then hand in hand with that is like a just and livable city. So the environmental justice piece, those things are the priority. I'm not that interested in projects that like are going to take a ton of time and energy and political will and whatever for like plastic reduction. It is important. I just don't think it's as important as the others.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say that, you know, it's more important, or maybe you see it, the work of this committee to be more focused on improving the local waste streams that are already in place, really, rather than even, because I know that we had Stephanie, who she and Allison, when Allison was on this committee, there were a couple of folks interested in helping, and I think that was something laid out. You're right, Raj. I think sort of closer to the beginning of this committee. But, you know, is that sort of a fair distinction to make, maybe?
I think if we're going to do something new and big and something that will require effort and momentum, it wouldn't be this for me. It would be. So
I have some take from my end. I feel like I'm with Leah that my expertise or my knowledge base is more in line with carbon reduction, or my where I want to spend time is in carbon reduction and greenhouse effect reduction. But there might be technical know-how in the city waste management employees that can look at this. So I don't want to throw it out right away. I would, sure. If Helen, you and your colleagues, if you have the expertise to judge this, the first thing I think some of the council members, it is on philosophically, it's a good idea. The first thing my council member, Clark, would ask is, how much does it cost? All the economics to do with it. So I don't know, sure. These blockers, you buy a machine, I suppose, and you start blocking them here on site. So if we have to ship this to California to be made into blocks, I'm against it, because then our carbon footprint just goes through the roof.
Yeah.
So if the blocker is sent here, which is maybe a compactor of some sort, and I don't know what the cost is, that maybe something.
Yes, I do. So yeah,
You do, okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I will say that I did a little bit more digging and a little bit more research and put together some of my first sort of like gut reactions to this. And based off of just a little bit that I found, I mean, so there are two different sizes of this thing. One that is meant for sort of bigger, more industrial type things, which can process like 90 tons per month. And then a smaller one that does like 30 tons per month. But I mean, logistically, you know, we would then have to figure out how to collect that plastic, how to even get it there in the first place, because it's not the plastics we're already collecting. And then the biggest one costs 1.3 million to purchase and create here locally. You can rent them, but that's, you know, 280,000 a year to rent. I think that's the smaller one. And I don't even know logistically, you know, where these are coming from. If they're being shipped to us from California, you know, it's just like shipping our stuff to California.
And this it's also not the solution to the plastic problem. Like the solution to the plastic problem is like from the inception, like a new supply chain. Like it shouldn't be any more plastic. It should be a different material. So this to me is like a complete sort of like, maybe like if we don't deteriorate into like complete climate collapse, and we do come to the point where we need to like do something with all of the plastic that's around, maybe this is a thing.
Right. So from the feasibility analysis point of view, there is a cost associated, and maybe the benefits are not as high as maybe some other priorities we may have, like changing the lights out on the street or whatever it is, changing out old HVAC anywhere. So maybe we can say that, hey, we are doing a feasibility analysis. There's a cost, there's a benefit, and based on that, if there is a grant available, we can do it. But if your budgets are fixed, maybe there are higher priorities associated with this. But let's do some homework, and and Helen, I'm glad you already looked at the numbers, and maybe that kind of puts it in perspective where it should go, you know, a charging station or this.
And I'm happy to just sort of summarize some of these points from you all as well. I don't really know that this needs to be anything as official as that resolution. So you know, I was going to probably provide some of my, you know, first reactions anyways, you know, this week or next week to the council members, and can, you know, include again some of your first gut reactions to it as well, just to make sure that, you know, I don't see this as, you know, anything that somebody's really going to want to run with. It was more just, I think, out of a curiosity of, you know,
and it's good to investigate things, and good to put numbers to it, and do a quick feasibility analysis. And I think you've already done that. So we feel confident and comfortable saying it to council members that, hey, we looked at it, and on the surface, it doesn't seem like that should be our priority, but we'll dig some more and see what it really means.
Now, is it my understanding that you said you've contracted out the only thing you guys are doing is collecting? the waste management actually processes everything, correct? So why wouldn't we emphasize to them?
Yeah.
In worded language that this is something that they should consider versus you doing it.
Yeah. So we do still actually, they still collect it, but only up until next April, we're hoping.
Yeah, correct.
But yes, I mean, so really, and this is a conversation we've had. It just was from a somewhat different perspective, but the idea of, why are we limited in what we recycle, and why can't they accept more? That's something that we have spoken with them about. And it all boils down to the fact that the whole recycling, market is based on making money for these companies.
Mm-hmm.
So they're only recycling the material that is consistently going to make them money. When the markets are really, really, really good, theoretically, they could accept more material and be able to send that further away or to further markets and still make a profit. But it's really rare that markets are good enough, consistently good enough for them to incorporate that into our day-to-day recycling programs. So
if the professionals can't even do it and make a profit and make it work, why would we want to try it?
Right.
Well, that's exactly it. Because really, I mean, what this company or this, opportunity is doing is just taking this material that can't be recycled, but still needs to be marketed into another item to be marketed.
What if there's not a market for plastic bricks? Like, what if nobody wants to live in a plastic bricked house? Then what?
Right. So yeah, it's really, like Leah said, I think earlier, just like not really solving a problem. It's just like turning one problem into like something else that may be less of a problem, but like may not be. We don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's we have to pay for our sins of using this material. So either we pay for it or we subsidize it or something, because there may not be profit in this for surely. But if we have created all this garbage, what do you do with it? That's what their thinking might have been. But yeah, I guess we've talked enough about this particular topic, and I support Helen. If you have the numbers, figures, we can just present them and say, at this point, it seems there are bigger fires to deal with than this right away. But
yeah,
it's a good idea, I guess.
Yeah,
and see what other companies do process more. I'm sure you did that before we selected wake management, so I'm sure all that thought has gone into the process already. So I'm not going to go in that direction.
And they may have input as well, because they are professionals of dealing with this kind of stuff. So they may have already heard of it and said yes or no or whatever we can do, but
great. So logistically for this one, so our city council does get something called a Thursday packet every week, where they get things like memos and updates. I think that's maybe where I'm going to put this information, just because, like I said, I don't know that it needs to be as official as a resolution kind of thing at a meeting, but it's a good way to make sure all the council members see it, or have it at least. So yeah, that's what I think I'll probably do with this one. So it'll be written up as a memo and submitted to them through that. So
and I like Leah's wording that or Helen, to you, who said that let's focus on our supply streams and what we are doing already to improve what we're doing, instead of investing somewhere else. So I like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of the agenda items, I'm pretty sure. So, if there's anything else at this point that you guys want to either go back to or bring up to discuss, now's the chance.
Well, I have a couple of little things, and if somebody wants to go ahead, that's fine. Can I? Well, one is, not having a quorum is concerning. And I'm as guilty last time, but that was my first meeting I missed, I think. how, I guess, filling the two positions and the position of the chair, is there a deadline for it? What can we do to get this moving so we can get somebody?
Yeah. So you all can advertise and let folks know, it's a little bit more targeted marketing, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, since we're looking for a specific kind of representative. So I believe a university representative, and then the Northwest Ward. And we're looking for folks right now from those two. The chair can be from anywhere. They don't have to live in a specific ward. But
does the chair have to have a resume of a particular resume?
I don't think so. I think that they apply just like everyone else. I think just the difference there is that is a mayor's recommendation specifically. Right. So and all of these applications do go to the mayor's office. So I can speak with the person there who works with boards and committees to see if we have any applicants. I don't know if they regularly, like if there was one, I don't know if I would find out immediately. So I can do some digging and asking around to see if we maybe have some applications to consider. But again, because it's ward specific, we'll see. But yeah, you all can put the word out there to whatever networks you guys have. But there's no deadline really. So I will say that usually what happens, so we had some folks like Allison just decided she didn't want to be a member after her first term was up. So if that's not the case though, and somebody comes to the end of their 2 consecutive terms, but there aren't any applicants, usually that person just continues on until there is somebody to replace them. So it's not always this situation where we're a couple short, but with Dane moving out of his position and Allison withdrawing, so that's really, and Sarah, so that's why I think we're more in this position now. But
is Stephanie still on, the professor from Wake?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, she hasn't said otherwise. So yeah.
Okay, so is she the university position as well? And so is
yeah.
So okay, so we've got 3 positions for faculty or university.
2.
Okay, because Lee, you're at.
I think he technically is representing his ward though.
Ward, okay.
I didn't understand.
I'm not representing the university.
Oh, you aren't? Okay.
So, things like that can also happen. But yeah, I think even in that scenario, like Lee would, and I don't want to say this without knowing for sure, but he may be able to apply to be a university representative once his terms are up if he wanted to. Again, don't hold me to that, Lee, just in case, but that may be sort of a gray area, so to speak. So
if we're going to tell people what we need, you should apply, we need someone from the Northwest Ward, and that person needs to be a university person, or a university person can be from anywhere.
Yeah, that's correct. They can be from anywhere, and then we
would need. Can they be from Wake Forest, because we already have one from Wake Forest?
So they can live anywhere, and there's also, there's nothing restricting that it has to be 2 separate universities or colleges. You can even consider Forsyth Tech in there. It would be
nice if it was a different university.
Yeah, definitely.
And wait, is Sarah still on the committee, or is she's not on the committee at all?
No, I'm glad you reminded me. I think I mentioned that in December and just forgot. But yeah, so she has officially just withdrawn from the committee altogether. Yes.
I was thinking she was another sort of Wake.
Yeah, initially she was gonna just step down from being chair and still be on the committee, but she changed that later. So yeah.
Okay. All right, so Northwest Ward, which city rep is that?
McIntosh.
McIntosh.
So that's, yeah, pretty close to Wake, sort of that Polo Road, Renolda Road. What is that? Spees Elementary area. Yeah.
Maybe Councilmember McIntosh might have ideas.
And he may, if somebody asked or prompted him, which I can ask the mayor's office to do, is just reach out directly to Councilmember McIntosh and see if, there's anybody that he knows of that would be willing to join us.
How do people apply? Do they email McIntosh or?
They can, I think, but there's a standard application that that's the same application regardless of what committee you want to be on. There's just like a spot in that application to say, which ones. So I can send that out too. I think that there's both a form on the website and a PDF if somebody would rather, fill out the PDF or something. So there's a couple options, but it's a standard application. And then they send it back to the mayor's office, which I think that email is just mayorsoffice@cityofws.org. So yeah.
So that was one item that I was going to say, let's fill the position so we can have a quorum and move this agenda forward. The second was WFDD covered a story of City of Boone going 100% renewable. I don't know, Helen, if you have contacts. So I don't know what we can learn from them. I know.
Oh boy, we can learn that we should have a co-op for our energy utility.
Say, are they Duke Energy?
They are not. They are not.
Yeah, and I spent 15 years in the city of Austin, and we had a co-op, and we were very, very green. That's why Austin is known as the green place, because of the co-op. We had control over it. Yeah, something to consider, right?
How would, is that a possibility that we could have a co-op, or no, it has to be Duke Energy?
I honestly don't know how those co-ops get set up and how they beat out Duke Energy for areas. Especially like ours, we're dead smack in the middle of that Duke Energy Carolinas territory. And it's like Duke Energy coverage does get spottier already in the mountains. So there's more towns and more cities in the mountains that aren't covered by Duke than there are in the Piedmont and some of the coastal regions as well. So, I don't know I don't know which came first there. So yeah, it would, man, as nice as it would to have a co-op, I don't even know where.
It's a difficult thing, but it's always, you can always start negotiating with Duke. Hey, be a little more flexible, and this won't happen everywhere, blah, blah, blah. So
well, and I will say too, I don't talk about this group very much, and I maybe should just, it's really exciting the work that we're doing. It's called the Cities Initiative. We're organized by the Environmental Defense Fund here in the state. We're the only state that has a network set up like this, and it's for any cities, towns, counties, whatever other communities. We have meetings every 6 weeks, and really the goal is to help sort of unify our voices and have us work towards common goals that will help all of us, be able to better achieve whatever goals we have set within our communities. And so, that group really directly, because of them organizing us in that way, we've been able to communicate more directly with Duke Energy and communicate more directly with a lot of state agencies, because it's more than just the city of Winston-Salem saying Duke. It's everyone, or a lot of their major customers in Carolinas, as well as Progress, and they're just more likely to listen when it's a bunch of voices asking for the same thing. And so that is seen really in the way, and I don't know if it changed as much on the residential end. I pay less attention to that actually, but the way that they recently changed how they do their billing. So the way that they bill the cities changed recently, and some of why they made things a certain way with that billing was directly because of the feedback that we gave them and the requests that we had to make it easier for those energy managers to take that data and be able to use it for emissions inventories and things like that. So we're seeing some outcomes, and of course it's slow work, but we are at least able to have a seat at the table now and have people listen to the local governments in the state, and, you know, have that voice be louder than it really ever has. So yeah, that's something, like I said, I don't talk about a ton here, but would be happy to. I mean,
I think
yeah,
it's
it
right
keeps us
along.
It keeps us on top of a lot of the state legislation that's happening too, which is very helpful. Right.
So are they consolidating your utility bills now to give you one bill with one rate and one? Is that
pretty much? Yeah. So
nice. Yeah.
It is. Unfortunately, there have been some hiccups though, so it hasn't been as smooth a transition as it could be, and I don't know if it's more unique to us at this point, which it may be, but you know, when folks get used to paying the bill a certain way and seeing it a certain way, it can throw things off when it does suddenly change. So you know, I think once our the folks who are actually paying those bills are able to get a better handle on that change, it might be better. But in theory though, yes, it summarizes a bunch of similar accounts into one item.
And you could get discounted rates too, actually, if that, you know, by saying, hey, we're not just consuming and on 100 different meters, little pieces of energy here and there, we are bulk purchase power, and that can get you better rates as well. You know, one of the things kind of associated with that, but with the Clean Cities initiative, that report card came out again, the Clean City report card. I don't know if you saw it, and it's we are consistently ranked in of the top 100 cities, we were 87th. I checked Greensboro quickly, they were 90th, but City of Durham and all those guys are in the 50s or 60s, a little better. So it would be, if you want, I can send you, you know, just the one page for City of Winston-Salem.
Oh, we get it sent to us. We participate in that through another platform. So we're giving them, we're filling in their data gaps there. I will say about that, I think that at a certain point, there is a level that it's just hard to compare a city of our size to San Francisco in the top 10, top 50 even. There's just a huge drop off at some point between the populations, but also the funding of these huge cities. Charlotte is a part of the Bloomberg philanthropy, like one of the Bloomberg, I forget the name of it, but they're getting funded for their sustainability programs like from that. So they have millions of dollars at the tips of their fingers to use for sustainability. There's a reason they're way up there, and there's a reason we're not. So I really just take that report with a little bit of a grain of salt, because it doesn't look like we increased from last year, and we didn't position-wise, but we didn't get worse. Other cities got better. They're not giving the credit for just having resolutions. Some platforms do give you credit for just having them. So they're also looking at it a little bit differently, and they want to see progress. We don't have any progress from 2020 to 2021 for us. There's nothing to show. So, there's a lot to consider, I think, with that. And yeah, it doesn't look awesome, but the fact that we're even included, I think, is great. And I actually talked to John Deem, the new climate and environment reporter at the Winston-Salem Journal, about it briefly. So those reports, I think, again, are good, but we also have had a conversation among our sustainability professionals recently. Is like, at what point are we just answering to these companies rather than answering to our communities? And at what point are we prioritizing those reporting platforms over prioritizing actual measurable improvements in our community. So things like that are also important to consider. So, because not everything is getting measured in those reports even. I think a great example of that is our food work. We do a lot of food access work here, and we have a dedicated position to that, which is very unique still across the Southeast, at least definitely is, but that's not considered at all in the ACEEE report. So, things like that too, I think it's still important to remember that it's still a limited scope of what's being looked at in terms of the whole broad sustainability picture. But yes.
You bring up a good point, Helen, that if like City of Charlotte is getting funding from external sources, which helps them do things, I wonder if we could go to Governor Cooper and say, hey, you have these ARPA funds. Could you give us a little bit more and give those guys a little less, because they're already getting some funding from somewhere else. So it'll be more equitable to ask. And that is a good thing, I mean, where we can't do things in vacuum. We need money, and grants would be one. And if there is ARPA grant funding source, which is already, I guess somebody decides that City of Winston-Salem per capita, you only get this much, but then go negotiate. Those guys are getting some more somewhere else. Then can we have more?
Yeah, granted, I don't know that we really have that equitable leg to stand on, because again, who are we when there are all these really teeny tiny towns that I would argue probably need it more, because we're still ahead of some of those communities. So, it's
and then that's where it goes back to our resolution that if we have a resolution saying, hey, we're going to do all these things, if we have money, that gives somebody a good, they get motivated to give you. Maybe Bloomberg will look at our resolution and say, hey, okay, if you're really willing to do this, here's some money, go show us what you can do. Maybe. So that's why I guess having a very strong roadmap based on that resolution would be a good thing to have, and then show our march towards that progress, towards that goal, whatever we have. And once we get our committee full and busy, that's what I would like to kind of focus on, because we have a resolution and it is really, really good with targets and everything, but not much is happening as we march towards it. So time is passing and we haven't made progress. What can we do to help make that progress? That's the question. I guess I would ask the committee to come up with answers.
Yeah, also in just thinking about funding, it made me think back to the solar funding that we got. Now, I don't know that I ever shared the total that we got. So that 125 that we got for this year was just the first year of funding. So this is through the capital improvement project or capital improvement funds. And so we've actually been allocated a total of 225 over a 5-year span. And that 125 was just that first sort of payout, I guess you could look at it that way. So I realize I don't know that I ever made that distinction, but just wanted to put that out there and just also point out that I think now that we're going to be asking for more money, we don't know yet that we won't get it. We just haven't asked for it in these ways before, which I think is why we're seeing some success now. But yeah.
And if we have that money, we could just take some of the very iconic buildings of the city and make them an example. For example, if the city hall had some panels installed, or the police department headquarters had some panels installed, and in addition to that, if we go with the green advantage program or whatever Duke is selling, and make just those two buildings 100% green or carbon neutral, that would be a big splash for the public, saying that here's our city hall, it is 100% green. And that could motivate, I don't know, giving, funding, energy, that could energize somebody to do something more.
So this actually brings me to a request that I just thought of, but would love the committee's help with. in maybe some feedback of where you all would like to see some of these solar panels go. So we're looking at city facilities or properties. We would consider, I think, maybe ground mount. That's something actually that Councilmember Clark has said he's interested in, just because, you know, there's no roof replacements ever involved in that. So, city facilities is where you could start. And yeah, just, I mean, you can send me your thoughts or your opinions about where you think it would be, you have the biggest impact, or, you know, have the biggest impact, I guess, on the public, or biggest impact energy wise. Just, you know, your first thoughts, that would be really, really helpful. We're sort of stalled right now in terms of actually deciding on where to put them. So yeah.
Does the city have to own it? Like, what about the bus station on 5th Street?
That might qualify, because WISTA is like technically a city agency, so that would qualify. But yeah, so not anything though in the county, so that does exclude the schools, which is a big one. But yeah, we would be looking at city facilities, or again, properties, which could include, you know, parks or utilities properties, things like that. So yeah,
I have some initial thoughts, just quickly. One is any new construction you have, like a fire station that was being built in the south, if it's not built yet.
Yeah. Oh, well,
the
perfect.
building. Yeah,
there's
they
one
could
already
orient the
like
building.
that.
Yeah. So any south-facing metal roof is perfect. And Council Member Clark, I can go talk to him if needed. They what they do is these standing seams are, you know, there are seams of metal every 3 feet, and they just kind of clamp onto it. So the roof is not, there's no poking through the roof or holes through the roof. And I personally like roof mounted because that way your ground is available for
other stuff,
agriculture, other stuff. So dead space. So I like the roofs, and anywhere which is very visible is another good thing for marketing for the city.
Yeah. And I'm sorry to interrupt, and I'll let you continue, but I didn't give any background at all to this, so that's my fault. We have already sort of narrowed it down to like a list of 11 based on south facing, based on newer roofs, based on some of that, and visibility. Those were the 3 biggest things we looked at. But again, you know, I don't want to limit us necessarily to that. And yeah, so we do have that. So again, those specific sites would be very useful. So that fire station one, I'm going to make note of, if you don't mind.
Right. And I haven't seen it, but I know Councilmember Larson had asked me 2 years ago to look at the plans. I never got a chance to look at the plans because I couldn't get my hands on the plans. But that's when I was saying that, hey, could you just make the roof solar ready? When we have funds, we can clamp these panels to it. So if that works, yeah, that would be terrific.
Right.
Yeah.
Great.
I think it'd be nice if it could be downtown, or like a high visibility. You know, I don't know. I mean, a South Ward fire station. I mean, I do think any new construction that we do should be like that, but it would also be nice if it was, you know, if you could add it to the Winston-Salem skyline, more or less.
Yeah, I always think about the city hall with a big plaque over there. This building powered by solar panels or something. You know, it would be good to see that.
Great. Yeah, that's good feedback. Thank you. I'll also send that out in an email, a follow-up email, to see what the rest of the committee members think, because I should have probably done this earlier. I honestly, well, we didn't get a chance to present to council until December. So anyways, this is helpful, and I appreciate that. And I'll include this in our considerations when we actually bring some specific sites back to council for approval. So yeah, this has been helpful.
And Helen, anytime you need any other advice on the side other than this, please don't hesitate to email me. I've done a lot of solar projects. I don't install them, but I design them and kind of plan for them for my projects. But yeah, anything I can do to help, I would gladly do it. It's our city, and yeah, would love to.
Great. All right. All right, well, I'll give one last call for comments or questions. We're coming up at 6, but yeah, just see if there's anything else anybody wants to add. All right, well, I appreciate you guys joining for a more informal meeting. I appreciate it, even though we didn't have a quorum and couldn't necessarily vote, but I think we got some good stuff to go off of, so keep an eye out for that email. If I don't get to it tomorrow, I will get to it next week with some of the next steps that include the applications for folks to fill out if they're interested in joining. Any information about doing an email vote, so I'll probably include that template one more time. And then just another request for recommendations on the solar stuff. So yeah, with that, again, thank you all, and I will let you go for the evening. Hope you have a great evening and a great weekend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
Bye.